Do you think you know what speed is? This is the Xiaomi Mi 9 and it has a Snapdragon 855 processor inside. And until you've used one, you've no idea what smartphone speed really is. So what's all this about the Snapdragon 855 processor? Well, this is Qualcomm's flagship mobile computing platform for 2019, and we're going to see it in a whole host of mobile devices. This is one of the first, the Xiaomi Mi 9, and the Snapdragon 845 is simply a powerhouse. Not only do you get more artificial intelligence, you get better connectivity. This is going to be a 5G platform, although not in this phone. It'll shoot better 4K video. It'll do everything faster. How much faster? Qualcomm says there's a 45% increase in CPU performance over the 845 that was in most of last year's major smartphones. And that is huge. Not only that, it's incredibly efficient as well, way more so, and we'll come back to how we're seeing that improve our smartphone lives very shortly. But first, let's have a good look at the Mi 9 itself. This is, well, it's stunning, isn't it? We've seen a variety of different models. This is the pure black version. There's also a lovely lavender version, purple pretty much, and it's gorgeous. There's a blue version, and there's also a transparent version, much like the Mi 8 Pro Explorer Edition that we saw last year. And it's beautiful. However, we're going to say go for the lavender version because it's really stunning. Let's have a look at some of the details on here. Extremely minimalist on the back. Take a look at this little reflective ring around the top camera lens there. You can see it just sort of subtly changing colour. This is also sapphire glass over here, so you get a very particular reflection. Looks fantastic. This is a Gorilla Glass 6 on the back and Gorilla Glass 5 over the screen on the front, which, as you can see, takes up the vast majority of the front of the phone. Small bezels at the top and the bottom, a little notch for the selfie camera, and the speaker is set above it. Let's have a look at the first thing that demonstrates the speed and the ability of the 855 platform, this time paired with a new 5th generation in-display fingerprint sensor. If you've ever used one of these, you know they have a habit of being quite annoying because they're slow and they're unreliable. Not so here. Incredibly fast and, most of all, reliable. This is every time we touch that sensor, it unlocks. And that's really fantastic. It's what we want. It's not much to ask from a security system that, whilst keeping our phone secure, actually operates when we want it to. And it turns a device with that feature into a joy to use instead of a frustrating one. So how do you demonstrate speed in a smartphone? Well, it's not really very easy. You've got to be able to sit down and use the device just to feel how smooth everything is. And this is where it really comes across. It's just so smooth and silky that it's a joy to use. Part of that comes down to the software, but the majority is going to be just the massive processing power and ability of the Snapdragon 855. The software on here is Android 9, but it uses MIUI 10, which is Xiaomi's user interface over the top of Android. It's one of the better ones. It certainly looks very pretty. It's minimalist. There's lots of lovely transitions. The animations are lovely. It really works beautifully. And we enjoy using MIUI 10. There's also a lovely gesture control system, which works extremely well. It's your simple everyday swipes to go into pages and back with a swipe to the side, and then you swipe up to leave, swipe up and hold to have your open app. So it's very easy to use, and you can see there it is so smooth. There are some issues with MIUI 10 though. It's not necessarily the most stable version of the software. We have a few issues with some crashes, some apps don't work properly, particularly benchmarking apps for some reason. We've had some crashes in the camera where it will suddenly lose photos while it's trying to process the 48 megapixel shots and the night mode shots. We also have some issues with phantom notifications. All too often we will have 9 notifications on our Twitter feed despite having cleared those notifications. So there are some issues. There's also some problems with some ads. You quite often find advertisements in some of the apps. They will suddenly pop up. There's one right now telling us it is an ad and we should install Amazon Music before going into the Music app. And these things are found in Xiaomi's main pre-installed applications like Music, like its security scanning software and its video app. They're not incredibly intrusive, but they are going to annoy some people. There are ways to turn them off, but they are quite complicated. And it's one of those things you have to maybe put up with when you pay so little for such a high-end smartphone. There's a couple of other cool features we want to draw your attention to on the Xiaomi Mi 9. The first is this button on the side here. Now tap that and you get Google Assistant straight away on your phone. But what's nice here is if you don't want Google Assistant, you can go into the settings menu, into the button and shortcuts, and then adjust what you want that button to do. So it is configurable at the moment. There's only a selection of options, but at least it's something. If you don't want Google Assistant on request like that, you can change it to something else, which is rather super. The fingerprint sensor is also multifunction. It's the first time we've seen something like this. It unlocks your phone, obviously, but if you hold the fingerprint sensor down, don't let it go, you have these 3 different options which pop up. One for adding an event on your calendar, one for opening the search on your web browser, and finally for a QR code scanner. Now at the moment these are the only options and they're not configurable. And they're also pretty much made for the sort of Chinese market there. We rarely have need to do anything with QR codes here. But in the future, Xiaomi says there could be a way to change what these options are. So you could have your favorite app to open or something else. But at the moment, those are 2 nice additional features on the Xiaomi Mi 9. Staying on the front for a second, you're looking at a 6.4-inch Full HD Plus Super AMOLED screen, and it certainly lives up to everything that we hope from Super AMOLED displays. It's bright, the contrast is wonderful, and it's very much a pleasure to look at. We've been experimenting with the camera here, which is what we'll talk about next. This is the first time Xiaomi has used a triple lens camera on one of its smartphones. There's another first in there too, because this is made up, as we said, of 3 lenses. There's the 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 sensor as the centerpiece. That's going to be the lens that you use the most. But it's also joined by a second 12 megapixel telephoto lens and a 16 megapixel ultra wide lens with a 117 degree field of view. And that's another first for Xiaomi. It has not used a wide angle lens in its cameras before. So we've got a lovely 3 lens array here with a wide variety of creative opportunities. This is what we love from really good cameras. We've been enjoying experimenting not just with wide angle, but also with the high resolution ability of that main sensor where you can zoom in without losing quality. It's a really enjoyable camera to use. So we talked about the speed of the processor and the speed of the software. How about the battery? Surely with all of this new processing power, the mega camera and all of this lovely screen, the battery is going to be a bit of a disappointment, especially when you find out that the capacity is not that large. The battery inside here is a fairly mundane 3,300 milliamp hours. So is it terrible? Am I charging this twice a day? No, the battery is superb, and part of this comes down to the Snapdragon 855's efficiency. We've been using this for around 5 or 6 days. It hasn't let us down on a single day yet, and we're ending with around 20% battery left, and that's with heavy all day, all evening use through testing the phone. And that's very, very impressive. When you do come to recharge the phone, this is a wireless charging device, but not just any wireless charging device. Xiaomi has created its own wireless charging proprietary system for this, and it uses 20 watts to recharge the battery, and that's very different to most other platforms which use half that if we're lucky. What you have to do, you have to use a Xiaomi wireless charging pad and their proprietary plug. So you can't just do this on any old wireless charger. When you place it on your wireless charger, it will start charging with what's called Charge Turbo, and that's a good name if there ever was one. What it does is charge that battery from 0 to 100 in an hour and 40 minutes. And that's extremely quick for wireless charging. Quite often it's way over 2 hours for it to do that. If you plug it in just with the cable and the proprietary plug, then in just over an hour you'll get full charge. An hour and 5 minutes, says Xiaomi. We've not tried that yet, but we have no reason to believe that it's not accurate. So very fast charging and a very long-lasting battery on the Xiaomi Mi 9. After all of those glowing comments about the beautiful Xiaomi Mi 9, you're thinking, where and when can you get one? The answer, as always with Xiaomi devices, is complicated. This is not going to be sold in the US, so you're going to have to import one if you want one. It's being released in China, obviously, and it's going to get a UK and European launch on February the 24th. We don't know the price or the final release date until then. We're expecting, from what Xiaomi has told us, for it to be comparable to the Mi 8 Pro, which was £500 or $650. Now, think back to everything we've said about the Snapdragon 855, the camera, the screen, the design, and then think of that price. Because if it gets close, this is going to be a stunning bargain for the year. And without a doubt, it's one of the highest performance smartphones we've ever used. This is the Xiaomi Mi 9.